So I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at INFER. INFER is a startup here in London. We're a spin-out from the UCL AI Research Group. The business was founded around 2 years ago, and we've just passed through our seed financing early this year. We raised around $3.5 million from some notable AI investors in Europe. So today I want to give you a quick kind of case study about what we've done so far. And this is from an investment banking operations deployment. What we see at INFER is our business is all about automating the interpretation of unstructured communications data. And in most enterprises today, we see that around 50% of employees' time is spent just in the mechanics of communicating alone. That's filing, responding, sending requests, and generating responses. So the operational load on your business for an enterprise such as an investment bank can be quite severe. And you often find that around 40% of employees' time is spent in one particular application alone, and that's Outlook. Around 30% of time is then also spent in an end-user application, such as Excel or a VBA-based application. So the client in this case study, the COO, hypothesized that around 70% of employees' time is spent simply interpreting and actioning information transfer requests. Now, communications data is very rich and contains fundamental insights across the business. What we see is that every conversation counts and speaks to multiple agendas in the business. It's often a job to be done, it's an operational cost, it's a market opportunity, but it's a record for compliance, and it's a detailed understanding of the customer's experience. And what we see is, in an enterprise business today, thousands of emails are hitting group operations, shared service centers every minute. And the operational load of this is huge. There are literally armies of staff working through these email flows. And what we want to do at INFER is provide a solution which we call cognitive automation. What we do is we discover what's being said in the various communication channels a business has. That's the emails, calls, chats running through an organization every year. We can monitor what's being said. We can action it by converting unstructured data into structured data to facilitate automation. And we can optimize initiatives in real time. So typically, the deployment model for INFER is in one of two ways. We can actually identify and make sense of the web of processes and systems and teams that are running through a business today and effectively index process architecture. We can also create a layer of interoperability for client data, whereby everyone in the business gets access to all of the insights contained in a customer interaction. So this is kind of a spectrum of process types we see across group operations at a tier 1 investment bank. Here we've ingested around 300 million emails, which is about a year's worth of data. And the group operations department effectively works as a shared service center, interfacing with multiple counterparties and various front office units in which thousands of processes are enacted every day. At the very far end of the spectrum, we see highly defined, highly repeat, highly transactional requests hitting the shared service center every day. Here we can see someone requesting how to add a new user to my account. This type of request is extremely well suitable to automation. And what INFER does is discover this type of request, gives it a machine-readable, structured summary, such as a request new user, and then we can service a response back to the counterparty or the inquirer very simply via automation. A bit further down is what we see as ETL-type requests. These are highly repeat, highly transactional, whereby a counterparty will typically send an email or a call or a chat to another recipient, and it will contain some structured data. And in this structured data, you will simply find that INFER is providing an annotation that it's a request for a daily reconciliation upload, and INFER is understanding the intent of that communication, extracting the structured data payload, and then RPA can pick up our annotations and trigger a process. This accounts for around 70% of day-to-day flow in group operations in capital markets. At the very far end of the spectrum, what we see is typically a sales conversation. These types of requests are very, I would say, unsuitable to automation, but nonetheless extremely valuable from an analytics perspective, because what you see is every part of the client request, every part of the market anticipation, the market demand is contained in a conversation. So here INFER is providing a structured summary saying it's an account, increase request, a pricing query. These types of annotations are not really suitable for automation, but are very useful for analytics. At the very far end of the spectrum, we might see something like GDPR compliance, whereby there's multiple stakeholders involved, And re-infer is understanding the types of requests and providing the compliance or fraud teams detailed insights and analytics into what's being said day to day. So, okay, how does this kind of come together? This is a kind of schematic or an infographic about a single process in shared services. What we saw is the old processes at the top, and the top arrow of how we used to work. This is the kind of recent innovation in the middle with RPA highlighted in blue. And this is the way we're going to work in the future, which is with re-infer. So what you're seeing here is a request coming in to the shared service center, and a human is interpreting the intent of that correspondence. They're extracting the structured data and keying it into another system to trigger a process. And here we can see usually a response is sent to the front office or the counterparty, information is recorded, and the CRM is updated. On the very far right-hand side, this is a process unit cost. And what we saw typically was the latency involved in this type of process taking around 2 days. The FTE involved around 2 to 5 hours, and the cost probably in the hundreds of dollars. Now, the big innovation in our time has been to use RPA to eliminate some of the manual, repetitive data entry in the back office, which has brought the latency down to around 6 hours, FTE involved to around 2 hours, and the cost of servicing this one process in the tens of dollars. But the one thing that is really holding up true scalability and true efficiency in your organization is the reliance on manual processes in the organization today. And these manual processes are humans who have to be the only things in a business today that can convert unstructured data into structured data. So what we see often is that your employees' time is effectively being spent as APIs to other employees. That's the way we see group operations staff working today. So at the bottom in the green is re-infer. Re-infer is a cognitive front end that can understand the intent of multi-channel communications data, convert all of these intents into structured data in real time, extract the structured entities, and RPA can pick up our annotations and trigger a process end to end. Here, the latencies come down to seconds, the FTE involves 0, and the cost of servicing this process is in the cents of dollars rather than the tens. So what does this come to? This is the outcomes for our client. What we saw was from 300 million emails, there were around 26 million FTE hours to support that. That's 10,000 staff. There was also a total cost of ownership in the business of $1.6 billion, and there were thousands of processes being enacted every day. So with re-infer, we've been able to automate 60 million conversations end to end. We've been able to take 1 million of FTE hours off the table. Annual savings for this business alone will be around $135 million. And the process has been automated end-to-end around 172, ranging towards 200 by the end of this year. And that's re-infer.